What up? What up? What up? What is up, everybody? Happy Memorial Day. And wow, it feels weird, but we are back. Wow, man. It just, dude, it's been what? I mean, 3 weeks, 3 weeks.
I believe it's been 3 weeks since we
I was gonna
last
say,
had a show. Good
well,
times.
with that being said, I am Chris Asbrock, and I'm your host. If you forgot who the hell I was, and I'm also joined by my esteemed colleague and co-host Scott Kaiser. And Scott, I mean, let's be real here. Yeah, that's always fine. Um, damn kids, man. The kids have been the reason why we haven't been here. Last couple weeks,
Yeah,
we've had to coach.
baseball. I was just gonna say,
Oh,
coaching baseball gets in the way. Life gets in the way. Taking over there a
yeah,
couple of times as well. So, here we back. Here we are back. I guess for what, a week. Well, we got a week, and then you're doing it from vacation. Is that what's happening
oh yeah.
next week? You're
Then I'll be
doing it.
doing it
You're
from
doing it
vacation.
on the road.
Oh, I'm doing it on the road. Here's the thing: like, I'm not going to miss. And I told you, I was like, it's been rough these last couple weeks. I mean, we were talking baseball like in the dugout. We're like looking at each other like, man, this sucks. Like, we should be doing a podcast right now. Instead, we're watching our kids get in like 14 ties as the sun's going down. So, I mean,
Yeah, those games. I was gonna say those games dragged too.
dude,
The
last
last
week
couple of
sucked. It was
Mondays we
brutal.
were there.
Like, last week sucked bad. It was awful. I was like, man, dang it.
We could have used the pitch clock for any of those games.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
it definitely would have been really helpful. But again, the happy Memorial. Wow, let me spit that out again. Jesus, happy Memorial Day to everybody. Obviously, this is about much more than any cookouts or anything like that. This is it's much bigger. Especially thankful to all of the men and women who paid the ultimate sacrifice for jackasses like Scott and I to do shows like this. So without them, we don't have the greatest country in the world being able to talk about the greatest sport in the world. So again, thank you for that. And I hope everybody did have a safe holiday weekend. But with that being said, Scott, let's get into some baseball. This is going to be probably a little bit of an abbreviated episode with it being the holiday weekend, and well, hell, we've been out of it for so long. I mean,
You would think we could do a longer episode because we've been gone for so long, and we're like, we're gonna keep it short because it's the holiday.
yeah, exactly. I ain't doing that. So we're gonna keep it short and sweet for the most part. But obviously, two huge storylines and during the time we've been out. And that is the performance of Paul Skenes for the Pittsburgh Pirates and the horrible news that came out last night, this morning, of Ronald Acuña Jr. Tearing an ACL again. This time it's his other knee, but just horrible news. And Scott, you as the Braves guy, I didn't text you last night when I saw the news because I was like, I'm not even going to touch that. I was going to let it go. But again, just, I don't care who it is, what team that, what player anybody is playing for, what team I should say. But it's just anytime one of the top players in the league goes down, it sucks. And especially with it being the reigning MVP for the National League, it sucks even more. And obviously, Scott, with you being the Braves guy, I would assume, were you watching the game when it happened, or hopefully not?
It was a rare time. I'm always usually paying attention to the games on my phone in some form or fashion, and I hadn't tuned into the game just yet because it happened right at the very beginning of the game. So I didn't even have a chance to turn it on, but I did get the notification shortly after the game started that he got pulled, and I thought, well, that can't be any good. And I shortly after saw the video, did the old talk to myself into thinking, well, maybe because he got up and walked off, he's going to be good. But I had this lingering thought in the back of my head that, I've seen guys do that now too many times. You see it a lot more in football, obviously. So used to seeing, a running back or a wide receiver who those tend to be the ones that tear the ACLs the most. But, more get up and walk off the field type variety. It seemed like when that used to happen back in the day, it was almost always getting helped off. And now, and you knew if they were getting helped off that they were probably down for a long while. And I don't know what's changed in the way that guys handle getting off the field now, but it seems like a lot more times than often they can walk off on their own power with very little assistance. So, I kept hope alive, but waking up to the news just before I went to work was not the greatest thing in the world. And my initial fear, though, was that he had torn the same one, which would have sucked even worse, I suppose. But he did, in fact, as you mentioned, tear the opposite one. He had torn his right one before. This time it was his left. Does suck no matter what way you shake it. Long rehab ahead. It's a very laborious process. It's not something that Ronald took lightly the first time either. He talked about how he was very depressed being away from the team and having to work by himself and go through all that. So you can only imagine how much he was feeling, or how down he was feeling last night about the whole thing. And I know that before they made the announcement, he had, I think, gone on Instagram or some social media and had mentioned, he only planned on being out a month, or it felt very similar to some of the other injuries that he had that weren't as severe. And so he was confident that he wouldn't be gone very long. So I'm sure it hit him like a ton of bricks, as it did the team and the fan base. But bottom line is that they've been here before. The last time that he did this, they won the World Series. And I know it was a little bit later in the season, a couple months, but if anything, that gives you a little bit of hope that gives Alex Anthopoulos more time to kind of survey the land, figure out, over the next month and a half, where the team, how things were looking heading into the trade deadline. And it's kind of next man up. I mean, nobody's going to cry for the Braves or the fan base, and you got to play the cards you're dealt. So, they've been here before. They know how to win without him. It sucks that nobody's trying to go and win without the defending National League MVP. And as you mentioned, it sucks for baseball and the fans because he's fun to watch. He's electric. He's one of the more exciting players in baseball. And anytime you take away the cream of the crop, the game itself is much worse off for it. So we all get robbed of watching him do the things that he did so well. And not to huff on the copium too hard, but he hadn't been playing well to start this season. He struggled out of the gates. There's some concern and thought that maybe, his knee, earlier in the preseason, he had tweaked one of his knees and had to sit out a few games, and was worried that he had torn the meniscus or done something to his knee at the time. Turns out he didn't, but he never seemed right after that and was very cautious. It seemed very similar to the year after he had injured his right one, and had the comeback season, but it was more like a rehab season where he just didn't quite feel right. And then last year, obviously, everything felt great and he took off. So you hate to see it. Like I said, there's a lengthy rehab process ahead, and hopefully he comes back and he's just as good on his return next time as he was. But, you worry about the fact that he's now had both ACLs, or will have had both ACLs replaced. I was skeptical the first time he did it, that, a big part of his games being his legs and the steals and all that was going to cut into that production. And then he went out and got 70 steals and shut me the hell up. I mean, it took him a year after the initial surgery to have that comeback season, but he did eventually do that. I don't know. I feel like it's asking so much for a guy to come back and be any type of base stealing threat like we know him to be after having both ACLs replaced. But I don't know. I mean, maybe medicine and the ACL surgery has made it so that it's a little bit different, but I don't know. I mean, if you're the Braves too, you're going to want to kind of protect him from himself. And I know that they'll probably give him the green light a little bit less to preserve him. Didn't really happen. It didn't happen on a steal. It happened when he was like going back to the base. And so
he was like bluffing and then just went down.
Right. It was just a quick twitch thing, and turned, body went one way, knee went the other, and that's that. So
yeah, it was an awkward one, and that was what was kind of like really weird about the whole situation. Like the first time it happened, it was on a defensive play to where he, was going, on the warning track or whatever. And then this one was just, this one was just odd. And it didn't.
It was like when
normal.
You see the old. In fact, I think I got a notification or something, and I'm like, well, of course it's non-contact. It's baseball. It's like he went down in a non-contact injury, and it's like, but I understood, I guess, what they were kind of trying to say. It's like those ones that you see in football where a guy is seemingly just walking off the field or jogging on or whatever. And boom, his ACL goes out, and you're just like, wait, what the hell happened? He wasn't hit, and then seemingly nothing happened. This, you can see where he's turning his body, but it didn't seem like any type of violent play, and much less violent than when he had jumped in the air and came down on it awkwardly, trying to field that ball in Miami when he tore his right one, like you mentioned. So. It sucks. Mike saying that he thought it was funny that the Braves tried to downplay it by saying that he left because of knee soreness. But it's funny because when I got the notification and it said removed and I saw knee in parentheses, my initial thought was, oh crap, he tore his ACL. Like I've just been conditioned because I feel like I've gotten a few of those now. And obviously I was watching the game live when it happened to his right one, but anytime he's been removed from the game over the past few years, my initial thought is, oh my God, it's something with the knee. And of course, this time it happened to be the worst case scenario when it was the knee. So,
but if there is a bright side to it all, it's the fact that you have Alex Anthopoulos as your general manager.
Because, it happened before with plenty of time. This could have happened beginning of August, after the trade deadline, after everything's done. You have no way to fix it other than the guys you got in the locker room. But he's got plenty of time to look at things, see.
He'll make moves. He will handle it.
Well, right, and some way, even if it's not a big flashy move, they will figure something out. But the timing of it, never good. But this is about the best case scenario when you're talking about, okay, it's a season-ending injury, but you have a month and a half till the trade deadline. So
and that, like I said, in all seriousness, that's the bright spot of it all. I guess you could kind of say is the fact that, like you said, it happened when it did, because again, Alex Anthopoulos has zero trouble in going out and making deals. Last time it happened, I want to say, didn't they bring in 4 outfielders last time? Duvall. Jorge Soler.
I was gonna say it was 3, and then Eddie Rosario was the
Rosario. Okay,
the third.
Yeah. So it's like situation like that. And here's the thing. Now you're looking at and I heard on the radio this morning they were talking about it. Now I want to say it's pitching and obviously corner outfield now for you. What do you address first? You do have Adam Duvall on the bench, who can handle, he's done it before, but he's obviously older than what he is there, than what he was back then. He's a veteran. He gets the job done. If you're Alex Anthopoulos, outside of killing 2 birds with 1 stone and making a trade, getting a pitcher and, an outfielder, what do you address first if you're the Braves? Based off of what we know right now.
My guess is that they'll probably find. I don't even know that they'll necessarily go out and get like a big name outfielder. I think they might just try to get something just to keep the 2 of them fresh, and Duvall and Kelenic. Those 2 were platooning. Now you move Duvall over to right on a more full-time basis. But here's the problem. There's part of the reason that he hadn't signed with Atlanta earlier in this offseason, because he said he would have, but is the fact that he doesn't deal well with the heat in Georgia. He's got health issues, and it kind of wears him down. And so he was more welcome to the idea of platooning. So you do need to find an extra body there to make sure they stay fresh. And again, if you want to hide Kelenic a little bit with the platoon, but I think getting him some more at bats could help him along too, because he's looked good defensively and he's looked all right with the stick. It would be nice to get him a few more at bats, which again, in the short term, probably don't have much of a choice. They were out there today playing all 9. So, right now they'll be all right, but I imagine that there'll be a few names that cycle in before they settle on anything. Once the trade deadline and everything's set, the dust settles in. But I think the outfield is probably easier to do because nobody's trading pitching. Nobody trades pitching ever, unless they absolutely have to, and they don't absolutely have to until things get much closer to the deadline. So you're not going to find anybody who's out there trying to give up pitching unless you're trying to overpay.
I was going to say you're going to overpay like crazy,
right? So yeah. I don't see the Braves doing that for a pitcher because for now they have enough pitching to get them to where they things. While we're discussing this injury and the state of the Braves, might as well go into it and talk about a little bit how the Phillies have really taken off since the last time we had a show. And they have the best record in baseball. They have the most distance between themselves as far as any division leader goes in baseball in the National League East, 6.5 games up on the Braves. But the Braves are still 9 games after losing today, still 9 games over 500. So they're sitting pretty. And the way I'm looking at it as, and if, the Braves have won the division, these years in a row now, and the last 2 of which it hasn't mattered at all. The fact that the Phillies were the ones that knocked them out in the first round both times. So, winning 100 games and all that, and winning the division, it's fun, it's nice, but that's not the goal. And so if the Braves can just make sure that they get in, I'm sure that that's all they're worried about at this point. So you don't worry about winning the division, and you don't worry about that at the end of May anyway, because there's so much baseball left to play. And I think that the Phillies will end up coming back to the pack. But just big picture type stuff, you just focus on the fact that you're still 9 games over 500. You've got plenty of time to fix things. The Phillies may have a 6.5 game lead now, but even if they run away with things, all you're worried about is just getting in. So it's an okay spot to be in, despite the fact that you lose arguably the best pitcher in baseball in Strider and arguably the best player in baseball in Acuña. So
I mean that's the craziest
how many other teams, right? How many other teams can say that? Oh well, we still have a chance to make the playoffs, and we're still going to be like all right, even if it doesn't necessarily mean most teams that would put you. Well, we're going to be firmly in last place because we just lost our 2 best players on both sides. So
I mean, that's
not too many teams can withstand that.
Well, exactly. That's insanity. I mean, the fact that the Braves, as of right now, here on May 27th, are 9 games over 500 in second place in the division without Spencer Strider and Ronald Acuña. Like that is, it's unbelievable. Now, granted, the Acuña injury just happened yesterday, but still, where they are, I mean, that's the amazing part of it all. Like that is truly incredible. And barring any major collapse, the Braves are going to continue to roll on. That's just, I mean, they are a loaded team anyway. So that is the good part of it all. It's just a matter of now supplementing, some of the guys that you have with a move or two to help bring in the depth pieces. And, a name that I did hear this morning, Tommy Pham. That was like, okay, that would be. That'd be an. I mean, he's playing very well right now for a White Sox team that is literally, I mean, the drizzling shit. So I mean, at that point, I mean, they can literally, you could probably get him relatively cheap. I mean, maybe not because God only knows what in terms of the White Sox, what their mentality is as of this time, but he's a name to keep an eye on. I think would be a really good move for the Braves to bring in because, again, that's another guy who's been there, done it, and it just adds to that lineup and adds to that clubhouse as well. I mean, that's, a veteran dude that gets the job done. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of it here the next, I'd say next couple of weeks because it's really going to determine how the Braves will approach the trade deadline. But other than that, I mean, it's, we're at a point now to where, like I said, it's a good spot to be in, regardless, because the situation does suck. Let's be real. It does suck, but the Braves are still in a really good spot. So in terms of the way everything is, I think they're going to be okay, especially, because you don't have to focus, like you said, Scott, you don't have to focus on winning the division. Just get to the dance, and that's all you have to do. You get to the dance and then let everything else play out and then go from there. It's happened before and it's paid off before. So,
Speaking of making it to the dance, we want to, since we've kind of started by getting into it, we'll get back to Paul Skenes and talk about him some more. But let's go on ahead and just talk about where we're at, like a third of the way through the season. We'll just go on ahead and keep in the National League, since we started there with the National League East, as we mentioned. Phillies and Braves leading the way there. No surprises in the National League East. Those are who we expected to be the top two teams. You've got Washington, the Mets, and Marlins behind them. But we did kind of touch on the fact that the last show, Marlins were in a downward spiral, and nothing's changed about that since the last time we had a show. They find themselves in dead last in the East, 8 games back. And like I said, for the most part, obviously we pegged the Phillies and the Braves to be the ones at the top of this division, so nothing shocking there. Moving to the NL Central, the Brewers in first place by 4.5 games. Cubs, Cardinals, Pirates, and then the Reds rounding out that division. A little bit of a surprise there. I know that both of us thought much higher of the Reds, and we were talking about it before the show, and you were saying, that they've gone through the toughest part of their schedule and are coming out of that. So you want to talk a little bit more about how the Reds have handled things, and do you think that moving forward they're going to battle back and get back in the conversation? Only 7 games out, obviously plenty of time, but the offense has struggled a lot, which wasn't to be expected after they finished with a top 5 offense last year.
Well, I think too, with that being the case, it's been a situation where injuries have, wreaked havoc on this team.
Breach.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. Like, who might have complained? Holy shit. But this team, I mean, we knew going into the season that May was going to be the month that they were going to get boned to high hell. And that's exactly what has happened. I mean, you've got, Jesus, I mean, you face the Giants, you face the Orioles. I'm just trying to think of they had the West Coast trip where they faced the Dodgers, but then they come back and they sweep the Dodgers here. But still, prior to that, they had it tough. I think in terms of, where they are, I mean, they're 7.5 back. I mean, that's not terrible. It's the way this division is, they can come back. It's not, this division is too sloppy overall. I mean, it really is. Like, this is not, what used to be one of the best divisions in all of baseball. It's just a division. That's kind of how it is. Pitching has been, relatively, solid for the Reds so far. Again, it's been the offense that hasn't been able to hold up their end of the bargain. But again, you've had injuries, and that has really taken a toll on them. And then especially when you're facing an extremely difficult part of your schedule, to come out of it the way they have. Okay. I mean, I'm looking here. They are, let's see, they're 5-5 in their last 10. They've won 4 straight, including tonight. They were coming into today, they were the only team in Major League Baseball that had not had a 4-game winning streak until that obviously ended today with the victory over the Cardinals. But, right now, I mean, I think once you start to get these guys back and rolling again, I think it's, now, like I said, you've got the light part of your schedule coming up. You've got 2 series with the Cubs, which, okay. I mean, yeah, they're ahead of you in the standings. So, the hard part's out. Like I said, the hard part is behind you for the most part. Now you're going to be getting into the majority of your divisional games here coming up in the next 2 months. So you've got that. You've got the Rockies on the schedule coming up. Okay. Again, the Cardinals they're a very, very, very beatable team. So again, right now, the next 2 weeks here for the Reds, I think are going to be crucial. But the fact that they were able to utilize a bullpen day yesterday against the Dodgers, that gave Andrew Abbott an extra day of rest. Guys like Brent Suter have stepped up and pitched very well. Nick Martinez has done the same. overall, pitching staff they've done a pretty good job. And they were going to be my concern, while the offense was going to be, what I was, fully confident in. That obviously hasn't been the case. It's flip flopped. Like I said, when you get, a guy like Jake Fraley back, comes off the injured list, and then, boom, gets hit right in the hand. And then you got Friedel getting hit in the hand. And then, you just see, it's just,
revolving door on.
Yeah. And David Bell losing his ever loving mind. And I totally understand it. After Jake Fraley got hit the other night, David Bell lost his mind, chucked the chair in the dugout. And I'm like, I get it, man. Like it's so frustrating when, you start to get things rolling here, and then stuff like that happens, and it's just continuous, and it snowballs. But right now, I'm happy with where they are, because to me, it could be worse with the situation and the circumstances that, that the Reds have faced. Again, 7.5 games back. Yeah, they're a game behind. I want to say Pittsburgh right now, just a couple games back. Let me pull it back up here again. They're a game back of Pittsburgh. They're 2 games back of St. Louis, and 3 games back of Chicago. My God. Okay. Again, this division isn't very good. All's not lost. Let's be real. This division is a very, very winnable division. And again, it's only May 27th. This team is fun as hell to watch when they get things rolling. They're dangerous on the base paths. Ellie De La Cruz has 987 steals already, which is, he's unbelievable right now. So with that being the case, it's like, things are going to turn for the better here for the Reds coming up. Like I said, now that you've got the worst part of your schedule behind you, boom, just focus ahead and keep rolling.
And I think the Dodgers series can catapult
exactly
jumpstart that comeback a little bit to get their confidence going. And
sometimes it's
where you're playing the Dodgers, sweeping them is tough to do.
Yeah, that's the first time they've swept the Dodgers, I want to say, in like 6 years or something like that. But still, they caught the Dodgers at the right time, and that's sometimes, again, that's all you need, is when you catch a team, you take advantage of it, and the Reds did, and build off of that. Now you've got 3-game series here against the Cardinals. They've got a chance to really make some moves. Go for it. And I, like I said, I think right now you've got Andrew Abbott going tomorrow for the Reds against the Cardinals. Why not? It's another great day to win another ball game. Keep it rolling. This team can do it. So again, I think the Reds are in a good spot. I really do still. Once they get things rolling, guys, continuously, get back, stay healthy. I think they're going to be okay.
Well, we talked about the Dodgers a little bit, them leading the West out there. San Diego following them up, the Giants, and then Arizona. We know that they went to the World Series last year, maybe to the surprise of quite a few of us, but them kind of hanging back there in fourth. Corbin Carroll's struggled this year, hasn't looked himself, and then the Rockies down there in last place to the surprise of absolutely no one. But the West looking pretty much how we figured. The West and the East are basically shaking out how we thought they would a third of the way through. The Central looks similar to how we thought, although we both expected a little bit more out of the Reds, but a lot of baseball left to be played for all teams involved in that Central division. I could see shaking out. Honestly, we're gonna get to Skenes, and we're gonna inevitably have to talk about the Pirates some in relation to Skenes and how things are gonna go for them moving forward. But I wouldn't be surprised if at some point during the season they find themselves at the top of the division based on the way their pitching staff is set up now. Moving over to the American League. The AL East looking very similar to what we thought it might. The Yankees and Orioles battling it out at the top, just separated a game and a half right now. Yankees in first. As of today, the Red Sox, Rays, Jays, all stumbling for various reasons. But that's a 2-horse race as of right now, just between the Yankees and the Orioles. We've talked about the Orioles a ton on the show. It feels like they've got all those young guns. Everybody's stayed pretty healthy. They've gotten back some guys that they lost, Bradish had started the season on the IL. Grayson Rodriguez had gone on the IL just, I think, our last show or right around there. I know we had touched on it, and he's since back. They're really rolling. I mean, I can't imagine that the Orioles don't find a way to grieve out of this division. But I gotta say, for the Yankees doing what they've done so far, everything's worked. Now,
Yeah.
I will say that the Yankees have been relatively healthy, which we know that has been an issue with them over the past few years. To some of those older guys, when you talk about Giancarlo Stanton getting up there and not staying healthy as much, and he's played pretty well and stayed healthy. Anthony Rizzo's getting up there in age, and he struggled with after the concussion last year. So they've stayed relatively healthy and been able to maintain pace with the Orioles. But I gotta believe that as the season goes on and injuries kind of start to take effect, that the Orioles are much better equipped than pretty much every team in the league, but definitely the Yankees when it comes to depth and being able to absorb those injuries. So I'd imagine that it ends in a very similar fashion, but I would suspect that the Orioles end up on top there.
I would have to think so as well, but the problem is the Orioles they've been bitten hard by that injury bug. And, you hope it's not one of those seasons to where, that's just how it plays out. Because that, it sucks because, you see it and it's like, oh, man, here we go. What could have been type situation. You don't want that to be at the end of this, at the end of the regular season. We're like, oh, man, what could have been?
Yeah.
And, you look at the Yankees, they have all the talent in the world. But, again, it's always been a health factor with them. And like you said, they're staying healthy, and it's paying off, tenfold for them. Juan Soto is Juan Soto. Stanton's actually playing well. It sucks because, obviously nobody likes the Yankees outside of New York. But it is what it is. If the Yankees can stay healthy all season, I find it hard for anybody to catch them in that division. Let's be real, like you said, Scott, it is a 2-horse race. The other three they're not going to be.
Well, Boston is already at the third.
They're 9.5 out.
I was going to say they're 9.5 back. Yeah. So yeah, it's not that it's an insurmountable lead for any of these teams. There's so much baseball left to be played, but when you're talking about being 9.5 back, this early in the year, unless something catastrophic happens to both the Yankees and the Orioles, I think those other three teams are pretty much resigned to the fact that they're fighting for one of those wild card spots.
It's going to take a biblical run for one of these teams to catch them. Let's just be real. That's just how,
Which, Tampa Bay, we saw last year to start the season, they are capable of it, but I just don't think that this year things line up for them to do that.
Well, they just don't have the talent anymore like they used to.
The offense, their offense has struggled a lot this year.
Yeah. So at that point, the only team really that's poised to make a run and strike is Baltimore. A game and a half back, and that's it. So there you go. Other than that, like I said, it's, Tampa's, doesn't have a shot. Boston doesn't have a shot. Toronto sure as hell doesn't have a shot. So what we thought was going to be I don't want to say a wide open division, but kind of a wide open division has been anything but that. It's, more or less, it is really just two teams, and that's it. Kind of like what we're seeing here in the American League Central as we transition to that. Or do you have anything else in the East, or you just want to move?
No, you're good. You're good. Go for
it. Cleveland is, at one point they were the best team in baseball. I think in one of our previous shows, right now they sit 36-18.
They're just 2 games off the pace of that still. The Phillies have 38 wins, and they've got 36, so they're hanging right there. Oh, I guess the Yankees have 37 wins, so they'd be third in all of baseball. But either way, the fact that I don't think either one of us had Cleveland hanging on to one of the top 3 teams this late into the season. Just based on the overhaul of the management chair and the fact that they didn't do a whole lot to change things in the offseason.
Well, it's, and looking at the division, Kansas City is making me look smart because I picked them to win the division, but, they're 2.5 games back Their couple, they coupled everything with an 8-2 run over their last 10. The problem was Cleveland's 9-1 in their last 10. So, a couple games here and there, and Kansas City is right on the doorstep, if not ahead of Cleveland. Right now, they're only sitting 2.5 back of the Guardians. So, you've got that. To me, this is really, as of right now, still a 2-horse race. Minnesota sits 6.5 games back. They're 29-24. The Detroit Tigers, 26-27. They sit 9.5 back.
That's my pick.
Yeah, I wasn't going to touch that. At least neither one of us picked the Chicago White Sox, who are 15-40. They sit 21.5 back. Oh, and they're 1-9 in their last 10. So, I mean, dude, yeah, that is a big oof. That is not good. Yeah, I mean, at least we're, nobody's a White Sox fan that I know of. So, if you know any White Sox fans, my God, check on them, because it's got to be absolute hell right now. But
21 games back.
Oh, I know. 15-40. Oh, man. You look at the stand, like when you actually look at it, it's like, oh, man, that sucks. But then when you really look at it, you're like, oh, that sucks.
They've won 5 games on the road. So basically, if the White Sox are coming to your city, go to the game if you want to see your hometown team win.
Exactly. You might come
there's a good chance. Good chance that your hometown team is going to win if the White Sox are in town.
Yeah. I mean, so there, there's that, that piece of comforting advice we're giving to you there. If your team's struggling, you want to play Chicago. That's really what it comes down to. But in looking at the Central, I mean, like I said, Kansas City, with all the moves they made in the offseason, they weren't huge moves, but they're ones that, help, supplement a team and help them move forward. And that's what they've done. And that's why I picked them to win the division. I just didn't expect Cleveland to come out and be, as hot as they were. And they've maintained that as well. Like I said, 9-1 in the last 10, and it's a little bit disheartening if you're Kansas City. Like I said, you go 8-2 in your last 10, and the team above you goes 9-1. They gain the game on you. Like, what the hell? Like, that sucks, man. Like, it never fails. But again, if Cleveland, if they, they continue to maintain this, I mean, are they going to maintain this pace? Probably not. Most teams usually don't. They will come back to the pack, like you were saying with Philadelphia earlier. Most likely, it's going to be the same situation for Cleveland. If they do, Kansas City's got the talent around them. They just have to be ready to strike when when it's the iron's hot. And if they do, then great. If not, then Cleveland's they've got a comfortable lead ahead anyway. Between them and Kansas City, I just don't see Minnesota, Detroit, or obviously Chicago. I just don't see much of them moving forward. So, you have anything else in the Central, or?
I don't have anything on the Central, but as I look at the West, I think to wrap up the final division that we haven't spoken of, the American League West, is this the most disappointing division in baseball right now? I mean, I know that every team, and there's no team as bad as the White Sox, and just the A's have surprised some of us by not being more like the White Sox in their record. But Texas has struggled, Houston has struggled a lot when we talked about that, and everything's jammed up. Three games separate Texas and the Mariners, who lead the division. Then you got Houston at 3.5, the Athletics at only 6.5 back, and the Angels at 7.5 back. I find it disappointing, though, because those top 3 teams should be blowing the doors off of this division, or at least blowing the doors off of each other in a way that they don't look so middling. But each one of these teams has their flaws, and I don't know which one of these teams is going to end up on top. I suppose if Texas ever gets their pitching, but they've struggled so much. But the Mariners have struggled just as badly on the offensive standpoint, and then Houston has struggled with seemingly everything. Yeah, the Athletics and Angels aren't much in the conversation and won't be at the end, but I don't know, man. The West just seems like such a big disappointment because none of the three teams that we expected to be in the conversation and I still expect them to be there at the end, but none of them have played very good baseball through the first third of the season. I feel
no, well, yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think that's why it is the most disappointing division in baseball because the expectations were there for at least three teams. I want to say we picked the top three teams to make it out of the division.
I think,
Right?
yeah, I think
we did.
we picked them all to make the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, it's but that's what happens when you spin your tires right out of the gate. You're squealing. It's tough. And if it wasn't for Seattle picking it up here, they're the only team above 500 in this division. Like that's insanity. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, and they're 4-6 in their last 10, and you're 28-26. Like, wow. I mean, Texas is 4 games under 500. Houston is 5 games under 500, and then, like you said, Oakland and the Angels are, they're well off the pace. But I think if you're Seattle, you have to feel somewhat confident, I guess you could say, because you got the pitching staff. They've got dudes that can flat out sling the ball. That gives you an advantage over the rest of that division because the offense seemingly is going to come around, and that's, hell, towards the, the deadline, Trader Jerry is going to be, I would assume he's going to make some moves to help bolster that offense. And, if that's the case, then, with the pitching staff that Cleveland or that Seattle has, I can't see them really releasing the grasp of that division. But, they've been a benefactor of the fact that everybody else is sucked in that division too. And I mean, but lucky for them, that's the case. I mean, so if you're Seattle, you've got to be really thankful where you are. I think, but if you're Texas and Houston, you got to be thankful for where you are too, especially Houston. They were horrendous to start the year. And they've battled back to make it, to 5 games under 500.
Right.
Which is crazy to even remotely think about here as we're sitting there. We chuckle about it, but I mean, if you're Houston, I mean, wow. But again, that's what happens when every team in the division literally is, like I said, spun their tires right as the race started. They got lucky, and it's just finally teams are starting to get rolling with it. And right now, Seattle's the only one that has been able to pull it up over 500, which is, again, insanity to think about.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been an interesting first third of the season. I feel like injuries have affected a whole lot of the biggest part of the picture. We've talked about Acuña, but Harper's been down, Trout's been down. Some of the biggest names in baseball have suffered injuries. So once those guys get healthy, obviously those not in the season ending category, it'll be interesting to see how things play out throughout the rest of the season, because you talk about Philadelphia being in first place in baseball, and I know everybody wants to say they've had a weak schedule and point to that they haven't played anybody, but they've done all this without Turner. They have the best run differential in baseball. It's tough to do unless you're a pretty good team. So, unless injuries start to mount elsewhere for Philly, they seem like they're going to be, taking things in the second 2/3 of the season, much that they have the first. But should we finally talk about Skenes? Because I know you've been dying to talk about Paul Skenes since his debut. And much like you gave me the floor for Acuña, I'm going to let you go on Skenes for a minute, because you've been following his career much longer than I have. You've seen him pitch in many more times than I have. I have seen parts of all 3 of the games that he's pitched in the big leagues. We'll discuss a little bit of all 3 of them, but I mean, the man, the kid, he's as good as advertised, dude. It's everything that I'd heard about this time last year when, we were getting close to the draft and the World Series and everything. And you start hearing those buzzy names and guys that are going to be impact players at the next level. And I know that it may have been a little bit later than I heard the name Strasburg, because I remember seemingly following Strasburg for a lot longer through his senior year and everything leading up to those final, months or weeks before he got drafted. Skenes' fanfare was much like, but the hype surrounding his debut in the pros, every bit as palpable, like every bit as anticipated. I remember wanting to watch Strasburg just as much as I wanted to watch Skenes, and neither of them disappointed when they finally showed up.
Oh yeah, this is one. I've watched Paul Skenes for the last couple of years, dating back to his days with the Air Force Academy. I mean, this dude was a stud there. I mean, he was a multi-position player. He was catcher. He was DH. Like, this dude did it all with Air Force. And then he quickly realized, man, I've got a future at this. There was a lot of hype behind him. He was able to get out of, the contract, I guess you could say, with the Air Force Academy, which is where he transferred to LSU. The hype, him going into last year. And again, Paul Skenes is an unbelievable dude. He's just a great guy. He's the first one at the ballpark. He's the last one to leave. He holds his teammates accountable. That's just, he's just a good dude. And, you saw what he did last year with LSU. Probably the greatest pitching performance, season, ever, is pretty much what, it's safe to say. And then again, what he did in the College World Series was incredible. And then you hear about him, he gets drafted 1-1 by Pittsburgh, and it's like, okay, how long is it going to take him for him to be up? Let's be real. Skenes could have played right from day one. Right from day one, he could have. But damn, dude, just the wait, it was totally worth it. I mean,
worth it.
Man, I was up in Detroit for a soccer tournament when Skenes made his debut, and I just remember me and you texting back and forth like, "Oh man, this is like, we can't wait," when you got the news. And then, I just remember sitting out in the hotel lobby. We're sitting there, and I'm like, all of our our soccer family, was all around us, and I'm like, hold on, like, Skenes is pitching, and they're looking at me like, what? I'm like, don't worry about it. I got to watch this absolute phenom. And dude, what does he do? I mean, he goes out there, his first start against the Chicago Cubs on May 11th. He goes 4 innings. He did give up 6 hits, 3 earned runs.
Yeah, but you could tell in this first one it was jitters. Like, it was total. Yeah. Like, he seemed a little bit uncomfortable, a little shaken, and when you could tell when he settled in, I was gonna say you could tell he was amped up, but once he settled in, he looked a little better. But by that time, he had been, wild enough and had thrown enough pitches that it was time to get him out of there. But he looked good in that first. Like, it did. He looked like it belonged.
And that was the thing, and it's, some of these guys, you can tell. It's like, okay, with him, like I said, the numbers, 4 innings pitched, gave up 6 hits, 3 earned runs. Like, okay, he walked 2, struck out 7. Again, it was all nerves. You could totally see it. He was amped up beyond belief. And of course he would be. He's making his MLB debut. Why? Of course he's going to be, jacked to the gills. And he was. So what does he do when he returns back against Chicago on the road at Wrigley? He goes 6. No hits. Dude he threw a no-no basically for him. He struck out 11.
His second career start.
Yeah. Struck out 11 and walked 1. The dude was absolutely dominant.
Against the same team, mind you. The same team that had just seen him. So you're figuring, okay, if they got to him in the first start and they were able to do that, that's how you know it was nerves. Because in the second game, you'd figure, all right, we've seen him. We know the hype has died down. We've gotten in the box. We've got video on him. Hey, just pull it up from a couple days ago. And they did even worse than they did in the first start against him.
And the funny part was the interview he did when they were like, I can't remember who the reporter was asking, like, hey, what about
making adjustments?
Yeah, and he's like, good luck. I mean,
Yeah.
It's impressive stuff. And I mean, what more could you ask for? And then he goes out just the other day. He faces the San Francisco Giants at home. It was as a Paul Skenes start goes, it was a pedestrian start. He went 6, gave up 6 hits, 1 run, struck out 3. Oh man, time to send it back down. Those are rough numbers for Paul Skenes. But in all seriousness, the dude is 16 innings pitched. He's given up 12 hits. He's struck out 21. He's got an ERA of 2.25.
21 strikeouts in 16 of your first big league innings pitched. That's amazing.
And what I love about Paul Skenes is the fact that he knows how to pitch. And I say that, and people are going to be like, well, yeah, no shit, he knows how to pitch. But no, like in all seriousness, like just because you throw 101, 102 miles an hour, you've got to learn to pitch. You have to be able to change eye levels. You've got to be able to change speeds. And that's what he does. He's got, this slider sweeper, and, he's got this changeup that's just absolutely nasty. It's just the dude has it all. He's an imposing figure on the mound. Nothing rattles him. I mean, he's exactly what you want in a pitcher.
But Mike wants to know, though, if the Skenes hype would be the same without Livy.
In my eyes, yes, Mike. I was on board before Livy ever was. So, yes.
Chris would still have Wood talking about
Skenes regardless of Livy. Full salute, baby. I would be full salute still, regardless. But it doesn't help, or it doesn't hurt the fact that he does have Livy on the side. So let's be real. I mean,
yeah, good for him. I was going to say, even if she was just a beard, it doesn't get much better talking about having Livy done walking around with you, man.
I mean, oh, darn. Hate when that happens. Yeah, Jesus. Nah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, you have much more experience having seen him play many more times at the collegiate level. I'd seen highlights, and that I maybe had caught an inning or two live during the World Series last year, but most of everything that I did was reading scouting reports and seeing video highlights. So it was fun to see him pitch, live and see what he could do. And quite honestly, I was glad that he delivered on the hype. You hate when guys come in and we've seen the shorter stays in the minor leagues, but this was amongst the shortest you're talking about, when you're basically talking about the kid made it in less than a year. Like, that just doesn't happen. And you're talking about Strasburg being on that level, basically going right from San Diego State into the bigs. It only happens every so often, and you just hope that it's worth the wait. So it was nice to see him go out there and do that. And I'm glad for the Pirates and their fans, and they deserve to enjoy a team that, while they don't enjoy the length of time that it's taken to get to this point, or the amount of guys that they've had to watch walk out the door because the Pirates wouldn't pay them. You just hope that with Jared Jones and Skenes and the guys that they signed Mitch Keller to a long-term deal in the offseason. You're just hoping that they can get it all together and get something and make a run while Skenes is there, because it would be good for that city and that franchise and those fans to have something to hold on to. And I know everybody wants to make the jokes, and of course, the minute Skenes comes up, it's like, oh, he looks great. Can't wait to see him on the Yankees, or can't wait to see him in the Dodgers. And I know those jokes are never going to go away, but I don't want to see Skenes go anywhere anytime soon. I hope he's in Pittsburgh as long as he can possibly be, and God willing, that Pittsburgh can find a way to keep him and the core that they're building there together for longer than just the 6 years of initial control that they have. Because I think it would be nice to see a team built like that in a place that doesn't get to be that excited about a core for longer than 3 or 4 years.
I mean, and let's be real, the talent that they have on the mound, I mean,
it's pretty sick,
dude. Their top 3 are ridiculous. I mean, ridiculous.
Well, and
Jared
somebody
Jones.
the other day had posed the question about, like, who's trying to face this team just based on Jared Jones and Paul Skenes. You get in a 3-game series and you've got to face those two in a 3-game series. Like, I mean, how many teams are beating that?
And then you get Mitch Keller as well. Like, oh shit! Like, great, there's your third.
I mean,
like, my God, like
and they've got a lot of pitching though. They still got some work to do on the hitting side, and it's not not everything happens overnight. So you've got to build one and then kind of supplement the other. But the pitching side of things, man, as long as these guys can stay healthy, because that's as awesome as Skenes is, the human body is the human body, and we know he throws harder than anybody else in baseball right now, pumping it in there regularly at an average over 100 miles an hour. I hope he holds up, man.
And he's thrown a lot of pitches too.
Right. I really hope that we're not talking about him being hurt and it being a thing where he's consistently hurt. Like, I hope that he's able to avoid all that.
And that was a lot of the talk coming into the draft as well, was the fact that, how much he threw during his time at LSU. I mean, because he threw a ton. I mean, LSU doesn't win the national championship last year without Paul Skenes.
Right.
I mean, plain and simple. And they don't win the national championship without Paul Skenes going 120, 130 pitches in some of those games. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
So, but again, your arm only has a finite amount of activity in it before it starts to break down. And hopefully, like you said, we're not talking about that, because an arm like that, a special generational talent like Paul Skenes, my God, like.
Well, I mean,
we saw a lot of baseball fans. You know what I'm saying?
Well, right, and again, to make the comparison, because they'll probably be doing it throughout his career. We talk about Strasburg, amazing debut, amazing for those first couple of years. Got his team to the World Series, won it, and then his arm fell off, and that was it. Boom. I mean, it was like a shooting star, though. Like, it went across the sky and it was burned very bright, but very quickly. And we didn't get to see like this really long, prosperous career that we were hoping for from Strasburg, because his arm just didn't cooperate. So hopefully Skenes doesn't suffer that same fate. Although Mike, being a Reds fan, says that he hopes that Skenes is gone from Pittsburgh ASAP.
No, I will say this, Mike. When the Pirates come to town and you get a chance, dude, buy the tickets, man. When on a Skenes start, I'm telling you,
I would love to be in the
totally worth it.
Skenes start.
Yeah,
but I also need to make it out to Pittsburgh, because I've heard plenty of good things about Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but great things about PNC Park, and as much as I hate Pittsburgh, everything Pittsburgh, I do want to go check it out. So might have to do a backwards K, outing show. Yeah, hell yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. I'm in. I am in.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to touch on? I know it's been so long since we were on. Is there anything that makes you want to throw up and in at anybody? Any brushback for us?
No, but I will say this. We did get the two City Connects, one a leak, and
that's right.
Yes, one confirmed. So the St. Louis Cardinals, before we get to the Blue Jays one, St. Louis Cardinals was confirmed. Their City Connect.
They played in them yesterday, didn't they? Didn't they wear them yesterday?
Did they get the game in or no? I don't know, because I fell asleep. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, I don't. I saw pictures of them in game action, so maybe they.
They did then. Okay.
They were able to play, or they were to get the photos before the game got postponed or canceled.
Because I was gonna say, because last I saw there was like rushing water going down the steps of like everywhere in that.
Yeah, no, I think they were wearing them last night.
Okay, well then awesome. What are your thoughts on them?
I dislike the hats very much. I dislike the STL on the hats and the name.
It's obnoxious, like way too big and obnoxious on that.
Yeah, it looks like a generic hat that you would get just for like at the St. Louis airport or something. Like, it doesn't look like anything that a major league team would wear.
Okay.
And the jerseys look like just like a rejected alternate. It just says the Lou with the standard Cardinals sitting on the bat. Like, I like but it looks like something that, it looks like the generic version, like something that Ken Griffey Jr. would have, like without the team licensing. It's like, oh, this is the Lou, and you'd have everything, and it looks like the Cardinals, but it's not quite the Cardinals. That's what it reminds me of. Although I did see a stat, or I guess just a mention about how it was the first time that the Cardinals had worn a home red jersey for either in their existence or on a Sunday or some silly stat like that. And I'm like, haven't they had a red alternate jersey? Like,
I don't know.
before?
Have they?
And well, I needed to go.
I don't know.
It was one of the they had a red alternate jersey, but I don't know if it must not have met the qualifications for whatever stat they're trying to bring. Like I said, it could have just been like, oh, they've never worn a red jersey at a home game on a Sunday night.
I was gonna say, or on like the 13th of
right.
June or whatever. It's like, what the hell? Okay, yeah. Oh wow. Okay.
Overall, though, not a huge fan. Just to borrow the scale from Craft Brewed Sports, where we just go fire or dumpster fire. I'm going dumpster fire with the Cardinals. Not a fan.
Okay, question. Do you know what kind of pants they were wearing with it? Were they all red? Do you know?
No.
Okay,
I think they were white pants. I'm pretty sure they were just standard white.
Okay, I'll go. Shit, if the hat's the only thing that's bad, I'll go fire on that one then, because.
All right.
I mean, the hat's the only thing that was bad. I mean, in my opinion.
I mean, the jerseys weren't bad.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
they just don't look like. I don't know. They just look like knockoffs.
They're City Connects, though. Like, I mean, what do you expect?
Yeah, no, and they do look better than the Detroit.
Well, yeah. And it's like every time I see Detroit, they're wearing them, and I'm like, I think
Detroit has worn them quite a few times.
They just made them their regular jerseys. They're like, screw this.
They're not good looking either.
No, they're not at all.
The two-tone color pattern that runs through the middle of the pants and then the jersey. Oh, yeah. They look very pajama-esque.
Yes, that is a great way to put it. Great way to put it. So let's flip it over here to what a leaked version of the Toronto Blue Jays. I sent you I was going to say, was it the hat the other day I sent you?
Yeah, well, first you sent me the hat, and then you sent me the jersey today, because the hat leaked first. The hat leaked like a week ago.
Yeah, let me see if I can. You know what? I don't know.
I should have. I should have found the thing to bring up.
I was going to say.
And bring up the picture, but basically, I was gonna say the jersey, regardless if you can see, but it's like it's got the city skyline of Toronto.
Yeah, it's hard to see, but it is like,
and but the jersey itself is black, and it looks like the city. It's
just all blue across.
Yeah, it looks like they took splash paint across it, and the black lettering of Toronto. I don't know. It looks like something that you would create in a video game for a jersey, is what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it and I'm like,
it's dumpster fire, because again, if there's only two choices, it's got to be dumpster fire. But like, I don't necessarily hate the actual design. It reminds me of those old school futuristic jerseys that they used to have. Do you remember those?
Yeah, and I looked at looking at it, I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay. It's not ugly, but honestly, you know what it reminds me? It reminds me of Colorado's a little bit. How Colorado has, the mountains across the front of it.
Yeah. I
mean, you've got the skyline there, but I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I can't stand the hat. I think the hat looks like trash.
Yeah, the hat, and there was some type of explanation about the hat being the roadway thing or something.
Oh no, that was a joke though. That was
but I thought that first part was actually true about how that it was.
I don't know, it might have been, but yeah, it was like how many? Yeah, it was something.
the lines on the T on the hat were for some type of freeway or something that gets backed up.
Talking about how it's ruined the commutes of. Oh, here it is. The T represents the TTC subway lines, because it's got a T. I don't know if you can see. I'll show this again. That is the leaked mock of the hat.
Okay. Well,
but it says, the T represents the TTT subway lines. The maple leaf disrupting the T stands for the countless number of TTC. The TTC delays ruining days of thousands each week. And I was like, that is like phenomenal. That made me chuckle, but. I mean, now that I look at that,
I don't think it's as bad as some of the other ones. I mean, it's not good, but it's not horrendous.
No, that might be one that I got to actually see it on the field. And if I see it, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna withhold judgment.
If they put black pants on too, I think it'll heighten it.
Oh, see, I don't know.
Because I think if they're wearing white pants, it's going to ruin it. You've got the black and blue jersey. If you're not wearing,
it's not going to make the way they play even better. It's not going to make the way they look play even better. Like, come on, that team sucks, and it sucks because I'm a Jays fan. I like them.
The Jays,
and they're horrendous. Dude, they're horrendous. So I don't even know if that'll salvage. But yeah, apparently that's supposed to be. I want to say they're talking about releasing all that information on Thursday. For that. So we'll see what it really looks like. I'm going to withhold judgment on it. I'm going to say,
wait a waffle.
Yeah. Oh, I totally am on this one. I'll admit it. It's all good. Yeah. I'm going to totally admit it. I've seen worse. It's definitely not the best. So yeah, I'll go with that.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
A non-answer answer.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah. It's exactly. I'm just going to be right on the fence on this one. I'm going to Switzerland the shit out of it.
Solid job. Well,
yeah.
Do you have anything else that you'd like to get to before we get out of here?
No. Other than that, I think that's it for the show right now, at least from what I've got. I do have to say, the NCAA tournament did, the bracket was all released, all the regionals. I did a regional podcast. You can check that out on the Impact Sports Cincinnati YouTube page, because that's the only way I was able to get it going. I'm hopefully able to get the audio. I'm new at all this shit. That's why Scott does it all. So hopefully there's going to be audio on it. If not, I mean, just like I said, the video's on YouTube. So
just cuss me out. It's my fault because I'm the one who didn't teach him how to get it going all the way.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, light Scott up.
Well, in the meantime, we thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Backwards K Baseball. Sorry it took us so damn long to get a new episode out. Our damn wiener kids are listening.
I was going to say it's damn kids, man.
If you understand that Simpsons reference. Thank you for checking out another edition of Backwards K Baseball here on the Craft Brewed Sports Podcasting Network. You can find us on all your favorite podcasting networks. We're also on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and the Impact Sports Cincinnati channel as well. Thank you guys for joining us. We will be back next week. Chris will be on vacation. I'll be here in lovely Cincinnati, Ohio, doing all the fun stuff behind the scenes. You guys have a good night. Appreciate you listening. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.